The human outpost stood on the edge of a barren alien world. Winds sweeping red dust across steel walls and empty fields. Life here was not gentle. Every sunrise brought struggle, hunger, and fear. Soldiers, miners, and engineers worked side by side, hoping the next supply ship from Earth would bring comfort. But until then, survival was their only mission. It was on one such morning that she arrived, a small figure wrapped in a worn cloak, stepping slowly into the outpost gates. Her steps were soft, her head bowed. She did not speak. The guards looked at her with suspicion. "Who is this?" one muttered. Another shrugged. "Looks like a stray. Maybe another refugee." When she lifted her head, they saw her face, young, delicate, and different. Her skin carried a faint shimmer under the sun. Her eyes were larger than a human's, glowing softly. She was alien, yet her expression held no threat, only quiet plea. They brought her to the commander, a tall human soldier with gray at his temples. He studied her carefully. "Do you speak?" he asked. She remained silent, her lips moved slightly, but no words came, only a whisper. Too faint to hear. Around them, the workers grew restless. "She's useless," one said. "Can't even talk. How will she help?" Another mocked. The commander raised a hand for silence. His voice was firm. "Everyone earns their place here. What can you do?" The girl finally whispered, her voice trembling but clear enough. "I can cook." The crowd laughed. Soldiers who faced monsters in battle chuckled. Engineers who fixed machines in storms shook their heads. Cooking seemed so small, so meaningless in a place where life and death stood at the door each day. But the commander did not laugh. He sighed, scratched his chin, then shrugged, his voice calm. He said, "Works for me." The room grew silent. Some thought he was joking, but he was not. The girl bowed her head, grateful though she said nothing. That evening, the commander walked through the dim corridors of the outpost, past humming machines and flickering lights. He found himself wondering why he accepted her so easily. Maybe it was the tired look in her eyes, the same exhaustion he had seen in war veterans. Or maybe it was the way she clutched a small bundle, old cooking tools, worn but cared for. The kitchen of the outpost had long been a place of complaints. The food was tasteless, survival rations mixed with powdered nutrients. Soldiers ate only to keep breathing. There was no joy, no comfort, only fuel. Now the girl stood there silent, her hands moving slowly as she unpacked her tools. She did not ask for help. She did not speak to anyone. She simply lit the stove and began. The smell spread quickly, strange, warm, inviting. Unlike anything they had known in months, the guards who first doubted her stood at the door. Sniffing the air, curious soldiers leaned over the counters. One muttered, "What is that?" "Smells like home," another whispered. "It can't be." "Not here." The commander entered, his boots echoing. He stopped when he smelled the air. His heart tightened for a brief moment. He remembered his mother's kitchen back on Earth, a memory buried under years of war and blood. He looked at the silent girl, who stirred the pot with gentle care. No one spoke. The only sound was the bubbling of food, the soft clatter of her tools, and the storm wind outside beating against metal walls. Something strange hung in the air, not just smell, but calmness. Soldiers who usually argued over scraps now stood quietly, waiting. When she finished, she placed the bowls one by one. Her eyes lowered, her lips still sealed. She served without a word. The men and women tasted, at first cautious, then surprised, finally silent. The taste was not just food, it was memory. It was comfort. It was warmth that no machine could give. Even the toughest soldier felt his eyes sting. Though he said nothing, the commander took his share last. He ate slowly, his chest heavy, his mind flashing back to a time before war. Before this world, he finished and set the bowl down. He looked at the girl, who stood quietly, waiting. No one laughed now. No one called her useless. Something had changed. The commander spoke softly, almost to himself. "Works for me." Outside, the storm raged. Inside, a silent girl had lit a spark no one expected. The next morning, the outpost woke with the usual noise of boots, machines, and orders. The soldiers gathered in the mess hall. Tired eyes and heavy steps, they expected the same gray rations, the same tasteless packs that kept them alive but never made them happy. But today was different. The silent alien girl was already in the kitchen, her cloak folded neatly to the side, her sleeves rolled up. She moved with calm hands, careful, graceful, like she had done this for years. No words left her mouth, but her actions spoke louder than any speech. The commander entered, watching from the corner. He still did not know what to expect. Cooking was not a skill soldiers valued out here. But something in him told him to wait, to watch. The first pot simmered, the scent spreading once again. It was stronger now, richer. The air carried spices unknown to the humans, yet familiar in some hidden way. It reminded them of meals long gone, childhood tables, laughter that no longer lived here. One soldier scoffed, "What is this, a feast? We don't need decoration, we need food." Yet when he drew closer, the smell broke his pride. His mouth watered, his eyes softened, he said nothing more. The girl lifted bowls onto the counter. She did not call anyone, she did not shout. She simply placed them there and stepped back, her eyes lowered, waiting. Hunger won over doubt. The soldiers lined up. Taking their share, they ate quietly, and then it happened. Silence deeper than any order. Not silence of fear, but silence of awe. The food melted in their mouths, soft yet strong. Every bite warmed their chests. Their muscles loosened, their minds cleared. Some had not slept properly in weeks, yet now their eyes grew calm. One soldier whispered, "It tastes like my grandmother's stew," another murmured. But how? She could never have known. They looked at the girl, but she gave no answer. She only lowered her gaze. Her lips pressed shut. The commander ate last. His spoon shook slightly in his hand. He tasted, and a flood of memories hit him. His home back on Earth, the smell of firewood, the sound of his mother humming while cooking. For a moment he forgot the war, the dust, the pain. He forgot the long years that turned him into stone. When the bowl was empty, he leaned back, breathing heavily. His eyes were sharp, but softer than before. He studied her. This girl who barely spoke, who held power without weapons. The room began to change. Soldiers who usually argued over food now sat in peace. Some leaned against each other, shoulders relaxed. A soft hum of calm spread through the hall, but not everyone accepted it easily. A young officer slammed his spoon down. "This isn't normal. Something is in this food." His eyes narrowed at the girl. "What trick are you playing?" The girl froze. She did not answer. Her hands trembled slightly, but she kept her silence. The commander rose, his voice calm but firm. "Enough, no one is forced to eat. Leave if you don't trust her." The officer stared, but no words came. The scent of the food had already taken his anger away. He looked down, ashamed, then pushed the bowl closer to himself and finished it quietly. From that day, the girl had her place in the outpost. She never demanded it. She never fought for it. It was given to her by the quiet power of her meals. Word spread fast, not only soldiers but engineers, medics. Even miners came to taste her food. At first it was curiosity. Then it became need. Soon every worker lined up, waiting for her silent presence. She never smiled. She never spoke more than a whisper. Eat, warm, rest, simple words, rare and soft. But her cooking said more than she ever could. The commander began to watch more closely. He noticed how men with old wounds found strength again, how sleepless soldiers finally rested, how even the cruel storm outside seemed less frightening after her meals. It was not only cooking. It was something more. He knew it, he felt it, but he could not name it yet. That night, after the hall emptied, he stayed behind. He found her cleaning the counters. Hands moving quietly, he asked softly, "Where did you learn to cook like this?" She paused, her hands freezing mid-motion. Her lips moved, a faint sound leaving her throat. "My people," she whispered. Then silence again, her eyes lowered, shadows hiding them. The commander said nothing more. He understood she would not tell him everything. Not yet. But he also knew this was no ordinary girl, no ordinary cook. As he left the hall, the storm winds howled outside, but inside, for the first time in many months, the outpost felt like home. And it was all because of a girl who barely spoke. The days passed quickly in the outpost, yet something had changed. The mess hall, once filled with noise and complaints, now carried a different air. Soldiers who once argued now sat quietly, eating together. Engineers who cursed broken machines now found the strength to laugh after meals. The silent alien girl had turned the heart of the outpost into a place of peace. But whispers began to rise, not all of them kind. Some soldiers wondered aloud, "How does she know flavors from Earth?" Others whispered, "Her food heals faster than medicine." Soon stories spread, some saying she carried ancient knowledge, others saying her meals were magic. The commander listened carefully but spoke little. He knew rumors could break discipline, but he also saw the truth in the men's eyes. They were stronger, calmer, more alive. Yet even he felt uneasy because he too had no answer for her mystery. One evening, the mess hall was crowded. The storm outside had kept everyone inside, and the air was thick with tension. Soldiers gathered, eating silently, when a loud voice broke the calm. "This is wrong," an officer barked. His name was Varn, a strict man who never trusted outsiders. His eyes glared at the girl. "Food cannot do this, wounds healing faster. Men sleeping like babies after nightmares. It's unnatural." He stepped closer, pointing his finger. "You are hiding something." The girl froze by the stove. Her hands clutched the wooden spoon. She did not lift her head. She said nothing. The hall grew quiet. Soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. They did not want to lose her. But they feared the accusation. Varn continued. "Maybe she poisons us slowly. Maybe she bends our minds. Look at us, we eat. We forget pain. We forget fear. That is not food. That is control." The commander rose from his seat, his voice firm. "Enough, officer." But Varn ignored him. Driven by anger and suspicion, he marched to the counter. He grabbed a steaming bowl and shoved it toward his face. "If this is poison, I'll prove it now," he growled. He ate greedily, scooping the stew with trembling hands. Soldiers watched, breath held, minutes passed. Varn's face twisted, but not with sickness. His shoulders slumped, his eyes softened. The anger in him melted like snow under the sun. His hand trembled. The spoon clattering against the bowl, his lips parted. But no harsh words came, only silence. The hall remained still, no one laughed, no one mocked. They simply watched as the proud officer sat down slowly, head lowered, eating in silence like the rest. The commander's gaze turned to the girl. She stood there, still, silent, as if she knew this would happen. He felt a chill, not of fear, but of wonder. What power rested in her hands? Later that night, the whispers grew louder in secret corners. Some said she must be a healer. Others said, "No, she is dangerous. One day her gift will break us." And yet, no one could resist lining up again the next day. Bowls in hand, the girl never defended herself. Never argued, never explained. Her silence became both shield and mystery. Her only answer was more meals. Her only voice was the warmth of food placed before tired men. But the commander began to notice details others missed. Soldiers with infected cuts healed faster after eating her stews. A miner who suffered from shaking hands steadied after her bread. Even the nightmares that haunted veterans grew weaker after her soups. It was impossible. He knew medicine, he knew human science. Yet her meals reached deeper than either. He began to suspect her silence was not weakness, but choice, a secret held close. One night, the commander stayed behind after everyone left. The girl was cleaning as usual, her movement steady. He stepped forward, his voice low. "Why does your food do this?" She paused, her hands stilled. For a long moment she gave no answer. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, "Memory. Taste is memory. Memory heals." Her voice broke like a fragile string, and then she fell silent again, refusing to explain more. The commander stared at her, his chest heavy. He did not understand, not yet, but he knew one thing: the outpost needed her, and perhaps he needed her too. The next morning, the soldiers lined up earlier than usual. Bowls clutched tightly, eyes filled with hope. Outside, the storm raged with fury, but inside the mess hall, a strange peace held strong. A silent girl, with no words, no speeches, was binding them together stronger than any command. And still the whispers spread, louder, deeper, growing into a question that no one dared to ask aloud. Who was she really? The sky above the outpost turned dark long before nightfall. Thick clouds rolled over the barren land, carrying lightning that cracked like claws across the heavens. Winds howled, lifting red dust into choking storms. The metal walls groaned under the force, warning of something worse to come. The commander stood on the observation deck, his eyes scanning the storm. His jaw tightened. He had seen many storms. But this one was different, bigger, wilder. It was not only weather, it was a threat. "Seal the gates, double the patrols," he ordered. Soldiers ran, their boots pounding. Everyone knew storms here killed faster than enemy fire. Inside, tension spread quickly. The storage room held little food, and the supply ship was still weeks away. Fear gnawed at the crew. Some whispered, "If the storm lasts long, we won't survive." Others muttered about the girl. "Her food helps, but can she feed us when nothing is left?" In the kitchen, the silent alien girl listened but did not answer. Her hands moved steadily, She counted the sacks of grain, the jars of powder, the boxes of dried roots. She knew it was not enough, not for long. Yet her eyes did not show fear, only quiet resolve. That night, the storm hit full force, the outpost shook. Dust slipped through cracks, machines shorted, lights flickered. Soldiers huddled in the mess hall, their faces pale. Outside, the world vanished in red chaos. The storm screamed louder than voices. Then came hunger. The rations were low, and panic began to rise. A soldier shouted, "We won't last the week," another cursed. "This place will bury us alive." Fear spread like fire, voices clashing, fists slamming tables. But then the smell came, gentle, warm, cutting through the storm's roar. The men froze, heads turning. The girl was cooking. Her small figure stood steady as pots bubbled on the stove. She used scraps, broken grains, dried herbs crushed by hand, nothing fancy. Yet the smell wrapped around the hall like a soft blanket. Slowly, soldiers sat down. Their anger dimmed, their voices softened. Bowls were placed in front of them. Steaming with life, they ate and silence fell. Not fear this time, but peace. Even the storm outside seemed weaker when the warmth of her stew touched their lips. The commander watched closely. He had seen men break under storms. He had seen fear turn to madness, yet here, in this fragile hall, a girl with no words kept them whole. His heart stirred, heavy with questions. As the storm raged on for days, her cooking became the anchor. She stretched every grain, every crumb. Every night she created meals from almost nothing. Yet no one went hungry. No one collapsed. It was as if her food grew stronger the less she had. But whispers returned. Some soldiers said softly, "This is not normal. She feeds us like she pulls life from air." Others answered, "Who cares? We are alive." The commander kept his doubts hidden. But inside he wondered too, one evening. As the wind screamed outside, the power died. Darkness swallowed the outpost. Panic surged. Soldiers shouted. Machines failed, but in the black silence, a faint glow appeared. It came from the kitchen. The girl stood over her pot, stirring slowly. The fire she had made with scraps of fuel burned bright. Her face glowed in the flickering light. Her silent, steadied, trembling hands. Men gathered closer. Not for heat alone, but for comfort. The commander stepped forward, his voice low. "How do you do this? How do you hold us together?" She lifted her eyes, glowing faintly like her people's kind. Her lips moved, soft words escaping. "Food is hope." Then she lowered her gaze again. Those 3 words struck him harder than the storm. He understood little, but he felt the truth. Her meals were not just food. They were reminders of life, of warmth, of something worth holding on to. By the 5th day, the storm began to weaken. The winds calmed, the dust settled. Light broke through the clouds once more. The outpost stood battered but alive. Every man and woman inside owed their strength to the silent girl who never raised her voice, never demanded thanks. When the gates opened again, the world outside was scarred, the land was torn, machines buried, yet the people inside were whole, bound together by a power they could not explain. The commander looked at her as she washed her pot, her figure small, quiet, yet unshaken. He realized then, this storm was not the greatest danger. The real storm was the question she carried. The mystery she refused to speak, and deep inside him, one thought burned like fire. If she could do this with food, what else could she do? The storm had passed, but the outpost was not the same. The walls stood cracked, the machine struggled. Yet the people inside were stronger than before, and all of them knew why. It was not the commander's orders, nor the soldiers' guns. It was the meals of a silent girl, every day. The mess hall filled with tired workers and soldiers. They no longer complained. They no longer fought. They sat in quiet peace, waiting for her bowls. Her food had become more than survival. It had become life itself. But the commander could not rest. Questions burned in his mind. He had led men in war. He had seen courage and madness. He had seen what fear did to the human heart. Yet never had he seen food bring calm like this. Never had he seen fear vanish with a spoonful of stew. That night, he decided to speak with her alone. He entered the kitchen after the hall had emptied. The fire was low and she stood quietly. Washing the last pot, her movements were slow, careful. Her silence heavier than words. He stepped closer, his boots echoing. "You keep this place alive," he said. She did not answer. Her eyes stayed on the pot. The commander continued, his voice steady. "I need to know, how do you do this? Why does your food carry such power?" For a long moment she did not move. Then she set the pot aside. Her hands trembled, her lips parted. A whisper came, fragile but clear. My people. Heal through taste and memory. The commander froze, his eyes narrowed. Heal? What do you mean? She lowered her head, her voice breaking. We are not warriors, not builders. We carry memory and flavor. When one eats, they feel what was lost, they remember joy, and the heart grows strong again. Her words struck him like thunder. He realized then why her food felt like home, why it stirred memories of Earth in men who had long forgotten. It was not just cooking, it was connection. She gave them not only food, but pieces of themselves they thought were gone. The commander asked softly, and your people? Where are they now? Her shoulders sank, her silence deepened. A tear slid down her cheek before she whispered, Gone, all gone. Her voice cracked.
I am the last. The hall seemed colder suddenly. The commander stood still.
Guilt heavy in his chest, he had pushed for answers. But now he saw her silence was not weakness, it was grief. A wound deeper than any battle scar. He stepped closer, his tone gentler. Why come here then? Why serve humans? She finally lifted her eyes, glowing faintly in the firelight. Because you fight, because you endure. My gift must not die with me. Her voice trembled. If I feed you, I live too. The commander's throat tightened. He understood now. She was not only feeding them, she was fighting her own extinction through her meals. Each dish was a piece of her people's soul carried forward. But he also saw danger. Already the soldiers whispered of her powers. Already doubts grew. If word spread beyond this outpost, others might not treat her with gratitude. They might see her as a weapon, something to control, he said quietly. Does anyone else know this truth? She shook her head, whispering, Only you. Now, the commander nodded slowly, his eyes sharp. Then we keep it that way. She blinked, confused. He continued, The men don't need to know everything. They only need hope. You give them that. But if others hear, they may try to take you, use you, break you. Her lips pressed tightly. She lowered her head, accepting his words. He saw trust flicker in her eyes, fragile but real. For the first time, the commander reached out. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You are not useless here, you are not weak. You are stronger than you know, and as long as I live, no one will harm you. Her eyes filled with tears she did not let fall. She gave no words of thanks, only a small nod that night. The commander returned to his quarters, his heart heavy but clear. The truth was his burden now. The girl's silence was not emptiness. It was the voice of a lost people, carried in every meal. The next morning, the soldiers once again lined up for food, laughing softly, shoulders lighter. They did not know the truth. They did not see the weight behind her silence. But the commander knew, and he vowed he would protect it. And yet deep inside, a darker thought whispered, if her food could heal wounds of the heart, what else could it do in times of war? Could it turn soldiers fearless? Could it make enemies surrender without a fight? The commander clenched his fists. His oath was clear. He would never let her become a tool. But he also knew the galaxy was cruel, and secrets never stayed hidden forever. The girl's silence had spoken at last, but with truth came danger, and both of them could feel it approaching, like thunder on the horizon. The silence of truth did not last long. The commander had warned her that secrets never stayed hidden, and he was right. Only days after the storm ended, danger came in a form no meal could calm. It began with the alarm, a piercing sound that shook the outpost from sleep. Soldiers rushed to their stations, weapons drawn. The commander stormed into the command deck, his eyes narrowing as the screens lit up. Enemy ships, a guard shouted. 2 frigates. Closing fast. The commander's jaw tightened. He had feared this day. The outpost had little defense left after the storm. Machines were weak, supplies low, soldiers tired. Within minutes, explosions rocked the walls. Enemy fire tore into the outer gates. Dust and sparks filled the air. Fear spread like wildfire. In the mess hall, the alien girl clutched her pot. Soldiers ran past, shouting, To the walls! To the walls! The ground shook beneath her feet. She closed her eyes, steadying her breath. She had no weapon, no armor, only her gift. The commander found her there, his face marked with battle lines. You should hide, he told her. She shook her head, whispering, No. I cook, he stared at her, disbelief flashing. Then he understood, a grim nod. Then make it count, he said, before running off to lead his men. The kitchen filled with chaos. Flames flickered from broken wires. The walls shook with every blast, yet she stood calm. gathering what little food was left, scraps of grain, cracked roots, even pieces of dried meat saved from before. Her hands worked fast, faster than ever. Every cut, every stir carried the weight of life. The smell began to spread again. Not soft this time, but sharp and strong. Like fire in the air, soldiers stumbled into the hall, bleeding, shaking, faces pale with fear. She placed bowls in their hands. Whispering one word, "Eat," they obeyed. And something changed. The taste burned in their mouths, not with heat, but with courage. Their hearts pounded stronger, their eyes cleared. The fear that gripped them melted away, replaced by fire of another kind. One soldier, once too weak to stand, rose tall, gripping his weapon. Another who trembled minutes before now shouted. For the outpost, their voices rose together. Stronger than the storm itself, the commander returned. His men rallying behind him. He saw the difference. He saw how their broken spirits turned into steel again. He knew then that her food was not only healing, it was battle itself. The fight raged outside. Enemy soldiers stormed through the broken gate. Blasters fired, steel clashed. The outpost shook with war, but the humans stood their ground. Their hearts carried the fire she had placed in them. Even wounded men refused to fall. Even tired hands struck with strength they did not know they had. The girl stayed in the mess hall, cooking, feeding, whispering. Her silence filled the room like a drumbeat. The enemy pushed harder, but the humans did not break. The commander fought at the front. His blade burning with fury, he shouted orders, but in truth, he felt it too. The strange fire inside, the courage that came from her meals. Hours passed, blood spilled, smoke filled the air. Yet the outpost still stood. Enemy bodies lay across the broken fields. Their ships burned in the sky. Finally, silence returned, heavy but victorious. The soldiers cheered weakly. Some wept not for fear, but for relief. They had survived the impossible. And in every eye, one truth was clear. They owed their survival to her. The commander returned to the mess hall. His armor scorched, his face bloodied. He found her still at the stove, stirring the last pot. Her hands shaking now, her body weak. Yet her eyes still glowed faintly. He stepped forward, his voice low. "You saved us." She shook her head, whispering, "No, you fought, I only fed." He almost laughed, but there was no humor in it, only awe. He looked at the men around him, soldiers who would have broken, who now stood alive. Her silence had done more than weapons, more than orders. But in his heart, fear twisted. If her gift could turn broken men into warriors, then others would see it too. And not all would see it as kindness. Some would see her as a weapon to claim. The commander clenched his fists. His oath burned stronger than ever. He would protect her, not just from enemies outside, but from those who might come from within. That night the outpost rested, bruised but alive. Men slept for the first time without nightmares. Women smiled faintly, soldiers whispered her name. Though she never gave it, they called her the cook. But they knew she was more. In the silence of the hall as the fire dimmed, the commander stood watch, his thoughts heavy. He knew this victory was not the end, it was only the beginning. Because the galaxy would never ignore a power like hers. And sooner or later, someone would come to take her. The battle was over, but the outpost was scarred. Broken walls stood like teeth against the horizon. Smoke still rose from the burned machines. And bodies, human and enemy alike, lay where the storm of war had ended. Yet inside the outpost, life pulsed stronger than before. The people were alive, united, and they knew who had made it possible. The alien girl, the one who barely spoke, walked quietly among them. She carried no weapon, wore no armor, yet every soldier bowed their head when she passed. They did not need words, they knew her food, her silence, had carried them through fire. The commander watched from a distance, his chest heavy with pride and fear. He had led battles, seen victories, but never one like this. Never had he seen courage drawn not from blood or orders, but from warmth, from flavor, from memory. That evening, the survivors gathered in the mess hall. It was half broken, tables dented, walls cracked. But the fire burned again. The girl cooked, her hands slow now. Tired but steady, she placed bowls one by one, just as she always did. And though the hall was wounded, the people felt at peace when they ate. Silence filled the room, not fear this time. Not awe, but gratitude. Some smiled faintly. Some wept quietly, but none spoke. The commander rose from his seat, his boots echoing on the broken floor. He looked at her, standing by the pot. Waiting silently as always, he cleared his throat. His voice reached every ear. "We survived today because of you," he said. The men nodded, their eyes turning to her. She lowered her head, whispering, "No." "You fought?" The commander shook his head. "We fought, yes, but we would not have had the strength without you. You gave us more than food. You gave us back our hearts." His words were rough but honest. The hall listened in silence. He stepped closer to her. His eyes met hers, glowing faintly in the firelight. "You told me once that your people are gone, that you are the last," he said. Her hands clenched. Her lips pressed tight. She gave no answer. Her silence was enough. The commander continued, his voice softer now. "But you are not alone anymore. Not here, not with us. This outpost is your home now. These people are your people," he paused, his words heavy. "You don't need to talk much. You've said everything through your food." The girl's breath caught. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, her lips curved, not into a whisper, but into a small, fragile smile. It was a smile that carried both sorrow and hope, a smile that no one in the hall had seen before. The soldiers murmured softly. Some clapped the tables. Others nodded, one whispered, "Family," and the word spread. Gentle but powerful family. From that day, she was no longer just the cook. She was more. She was part of them, bound not by blood or language, but by something deeper. Weeks passed. The outpost rebuilt slowly. Each day she cooked, and each day the people grew stronger. No one questioned her silence anymore. No one mocked her soft whispers. They understood now. Her silence was not emptiness. It was strength. The commander kept his oath. He guarded her secret. He knew the galaxy would come one day, greedy hands reaching for her gift. But he also knew that when that day came, they would stand together, not as commander and cook, but as family. One evening, as the sun sank behind red clouds, the commander walked into the mess hall. He found her there, stirring a pot as usual. He sat down, resting his weapon against the wall. She placed a bowl in front of him, still silent. He ate slowly, tasting not only food but memory, his mother's smile, Earth's blue sky, the laughter of soldiers long gone. He set the bowl down and looked at her, his voice low but steady. "Works for me." Her smile returned, small but certain, and in that moment, the silence between them said more than any speech. The outpost had found its healer, its heart, not in war, not in steel, but in the quiet strength of a girl who cooked. Humanity had gained a new story, one not of conquest but of compassion. And though the galaxy beyond still raged with fire and fear, inside those walls hope burned brighter than any storm, carried forward with every meal, every memory, every silence.